So I guess it. Wait, is it? Yeah. So I guess it makes sense that it only sounded right like that. But yeah, I kept reworking that chord, and it just wouldn't sound right until I got it at that point. And even now, it's a little teeny bit strange to me when I hear that. But at least I can think, yeah, that fits. Other chords sounded so like they've sounded so out of place. So yeah, and I couldn't think of a. I wanted to make sure that the pitch went up on this chord. I wanted it so that it didn't go as high as this, but it still went up. So I didn't have a very large choice of chords. So yeah, that was basically the. I literally think I tried every single combination of chords that didn't require two notes to be right next to each other. Because you didn't know that two notes right next to each other in a chord usually creates a very discordal chord. You know, it creates a kind of horror chord, if you know what I mean. So it's like not very good for ambient. So I couldn't put any. I had to put at least a two-note space between each chord, while making it higher pitched than DFA and lower pitched than F A sharp D. And I think I tried every single combination, and this was the only one that sounded alright. So yeah, then it repeats the first bar and the third bar. The second bar, DFA, D, G, C, and then F, A sharp, D. Now you may notice that these, for the last chord, the three notes are slightly different colours. The reason for that is I'm to slide these down one note at this point. With the rhythm, it goes like wah, 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 wah. So the wah, wah is a lower pitch. So yeah, I did this the way I did because if you just had these all the same colour, then it would just go to one of the slides. If you have three notes and you want them all to slide to different places, if they're all on the same MIDI channel, then they will just go to one of the slides. Even if you put three at the same time, they will just go to one of them at random. So yeah, that will not work. It will only work for one of them, and it will silence the other notes. These colours, I thought they were just for sorting, but it turns out, while that's the main purpose, they also count as different MIDI channels. So I don't know a whole lot about that kind of stuff, but basically, it kind of is like a different pattern, almost. Like, it's still within the same pattern, but like it treats it as if it's a different pattern, so it doesn't like confuse the two together. So if all three of the notes in the chord are different colours and all three of the slides are different corresponding colours, then they will slide to the right note, and you can have three slides at once. So that's why they all have to be different colours. I hope you probably get it. So yeah, so that's for those chords. So that's not all of it though. There is also this green automation clip. So this is kind of what makes this sound super like really trancey. Like there's a lot of stuff make it trancey, but this is probably the biggest thing. There's this Fruity Delay 3. Now I can't even remember everything I've done on this, but yeah, let's see. Okay, so I think, to be honest though, I think there was an older version of this that I scrapped, and that was the crazy version, and this one is still pretty weird, but not as crazy. So yeah, it echoes every 3 beats, and it's got ping pong panning on, and here's where it gets interesting. We've got modulation, we've got time modulation, and remember that changing the time, like the speed of something, changes its pitch too. So this is basically, every echo has a slightly different pitch, and then on top of that, it's got every echo puts a cut-off filter on, like, a low pass, basically. There's a low pass on every echo, and the cut-off gets lower every single echo. But it's a low pass because it's on the LP setting. You can change it to a high pass or a band pass on Fruity Delay 3. In Fruity Delay 2, it's only a low pass. Anyway, but on top of that, there's a resonance option. I'm automating the resonance, but one thing that makes this sound especially strange is, I didn't realise until I already made the automation clip, but I decided to keep it anyway, the resonance on the echo can go above 100%, and when it goes above 100%, the echoes actually start getting louder, so you can actually have echoes that kind of go in reverse, if you get what I mean, because usually they fade out, these would fade in. So yeah, it's me messing around with the resonance. If you don't know, you probably should know, but because it's pretty basic stuff, but you don't know. I guess I didn't know that I was supposed to get rid of the limiter for ages, and that apparently is pretty basic stuff. But anyway, yeah. Basically, the resonance is where it increases the volume of a sound around the cutoff point and reduces it when it's not around that cutoff point. So having it really high would make the sound really concentrated on one frequency. So yeah, you can see it being moved. When it goes red is when it's above 100. And this is what happens if you have the resonance above 100. No. Yeah, that's what happens. Sometimes I actually got really... One time, when the first time this happened, I actually got right scared because it took ages to fade in. I just started hearing that. And I'm like, am I crazy? Can I hear screaming? So yeah, speaking of which, I am thinking if I ever do a horror track, I definitely want to take advantage of that, because this sounds so, like, cool and spooky. So yeah, that's how we got that. Oh yes, and there's one last automation clip. All this is doing is, I would show you, but to be honest, it's not worth the trouble, because it's pretty easy, pretty simple. Basically, when this is at the bottom, you can only hear the echoes and you can't hear the original sound, and when this is at the top you start to hear the original sound as well. So when this first fades in, you can only hear the echoes of it, which is why it might sound to you, you might notice that it sounds like it almost changes its tempo or rhythm or whatever you want to say in the beginning as it's fading in. It's because technically what you're listening to is 3 beats behind the actual piece. And it kind of tries to fade in under it afterwards, so sometimes that can sound a bit weird. Now, I actually don't know what these are, but I can have a guess. I'm guessing these are automation clips that are put on the master. Oh, I forgot I'd done this. Right, okay, so this is a radio preset for Fruity Parametric Equalizer 2, and the mix of it is being automated by this top one. So basically, the volume of the entire track that is being affected by the radio effect is under the curve. So by this point, it's no longer being affected, but up here, basically all the volume in the track is being affected by it. The second one is a high pass, which I've added on top of the preset, which removes any frequencies below it, so anything under the curve is frequencies you can't hear. So yeah, it's a very, very slow fade in, but yeah, there you go. So then we got a little granulizer whir sound, which I'm just gonna let you listen to on its own. So, this sound is actually in another FL Studio right now. Like, well, it's an audio clip taken from another FL Studio, which sounded like this. This is what it sounds like with no effects. So, if you're wondering why I put this in a second FL Studio, but I didn't put the next granulizer sound I'm going to show you is inside the project, well, I got a glitch that I've only had once before in FL Studio while making this. Well, I say while making this, it was just today, and I literally just needed to do the last 15 minutes of work today. But I got a glitch where everything on the playlist was frozen. I could drag this arrow and I could press play, but the arrow wouldn't move unless I dragged it, and no sound would play. Even if I clicked one of these, no sound would come out. There was no sound coming from anywhere in the project. I couldn't even when I went into the master and put on a wave shaper with asymmetrical distortion like this. Wait, isn't it like that? Oh, maybe I was doing it wrong then. I'm pretty sure if you do just put a wave shaper in doing that stuff. Just a moment. Maybe you have to play it first. I thought you should put a wave shaper with asymmetric